the truth of the matter, and you said it so well, Dr. Vibe, there are countless Black, African/Caribbean students, international students who are here in our cities who are struggling.
It's hard to know because we don't have like the data to say what is the state of Black health before and after. And that's something that we've been advocating for, right? We need better race-based data that's done in a way that serves us, because race-based data has been collected on different groups in ways that actually cause harm, but we need it to be done with us in a way that
What is up,
us.
everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team since 2020, we reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. So always I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Broadcasting Sunday, January 12th here in the Toronto area. We've got a little bit of a warm spell today. About a week ago, it was cold, frosty. But things are better now and warmer now, and you are watching live Black Canada Talking, where Black Canadians give their POVs, takes, and opinions on stories and things locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally. So we're here to check it out. Hope you're all doing fine. Thank you for catching us live or on the replay. And let's get into this. So if you want to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, please hit the notification button and subscribe. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To all advertise and advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, please email me at dr.vibe@vibeshow.com. And you can catch replays of this epic conversation and many other ones that I'm a part of on Indie Soup Media. That's Indie Soup TV, which is independent content creators platform, powered by our good friend Dr. Tachi in the United States, Fort Lauderdale to be exact, about 25 different independent content creators. I am one of them, and also I'm a member of the board of Indie Soup TV or Indie Soup Media. And as of last Christmas, over 22,000 subscribers. So let's get to it. So as always, we have our good friend who is with us on almost every Black Canada Talking conversation live. We have up Cesar Ndema-Moussa. What is up, Cesar?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Hi, brothers and sisters, and hi to all the allies supporting the cause. Thank you for having me always. I'm good, thank you.
No problem. Just want to put out front, if you want to get in contact with Cesar, there he is. Email address president@rootsandculturecanada.com, and Facebook at Cesar Remy Emery. How is family before we go any further?
Family is good, and I thank you actually for asking. Last time when we were on 2 weeks ago, as you remember my voice, half an hour later, there was no voice. And for a week, I had no voice until the next Saturday. I had no voice.
Wow. Guess who's here? Your number one supporter.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. Merci. Bonne année.
There you go. And we want to wish everyone, whenever you're watching, well, if you're Happy New Year, if you're watching this somewhat in real time when we broadcast, but happy every day for those around the world. So Cesar, a lot has gone down since we have last been on the platform. So from a Canadian lens, obviously Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau resigns. Thoughts?
If you don't mind, Dr. Vibe, first, just so that I don't forget, and I don't use the expression thoughts and prayers, but I want people to remember that what's happening in Los Angeles with the fires.
Yes.
Beyond talks about climate change, global warming, and some people, like, there's a video of a man setting fires, on his whatever motorized equipment. It's real people suffering. Of course, it doesn't get the highlight that it gets the highlight that other tragedies don't get. Example, in Mayotte, they suffered a hurricane by the name of Shibo that ravaged the island, but we talk more about Los Angeles, and we should talk more about more tragedies. So yes, celebrities are losing their homes, but guess what? Regular people are losing their homes, people are losing their work. Even if it's only, I'm saying only 11 or 15 people dead, it's still a tragedy. So let us look after each other because let's not forget the fires that were in Canada that affected many people were not that long ago. So I just want to mention that to start. As you said, you were saying regarding Trudeau resigning. Ah, the shocker that was not a shocker. That everybody should have seen this coming. Many people are talking about how it's too late, should have been earlier. It's a bit hard to say because at the same time, the way I look at it is whether it would have happened, say, in September or October, or it would have happened in March or April. How can I put it? The writing was already on the wall, but the first question people should ask themselves is it more Prime Minister Justin Trudeau who is so unpopular, or is it the Liberals? And I say this because Liberals actually did win elections in Eastern Canada in the Maritimes. But the popularity of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after 9 years, which is quite a long tenure, has to be addressed in regards to the issues at hand. Of course, we're thinking of the economy, we're thinking of immigration, but we also have to not forget other elements such as minorities' rights, notably Indigenous people, and the large amounts of money that have been spent to fight climate change, in regards to the economy and the deficit, if I'm not mistaken, over not only growing the size of government but also ballooning a deficit to over $60 billion just as monies for Indigenous people going from I think 10 or 11 billions in the 2010s to now talking about 30 billions, and it's not enough when we look at issues such as clean drinking water that are still not addressed truly, and other issues, but many issues. But we must not forget, and I really say this, the Trudeau government has helped to bring down notably child poverty, single mothers, senior citizens, and during COVID, during the lockdowns, and people can argue whether or not there should have even been. I mean, let's look around the world. There were lockdowns, helping with the Serb, the checks from Serb, helping to maintain many people afloat. So he is resigning, and it's easy to just say Mr. Poilievre, PP, Pierre Poilievre, is coming to power. But there's a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of discontentment. And it's not going to be as simple as to just put another government in place for a true change of things to come. Same as in the United States, as we will talk about in a little bit regarding Mr. Orange Man, aka 45-47, Donald Trump coming back to the White House.
Cesar, do you feel like when the Liberals lost an election in, I can't remember the name of the riding here in Toronto a few months ago, which was a long time Liberal stronghold, should not have been a bellwether for Trudeau to let go now?
Well, let me help you even further. They lost, and just like I'm forgetting the name, in Toronto, I think Toronto Centre.
I think it was St. Mary's. I think that was the name of the riding.
I think that was the name.
Right.
But also in Montreal. They did lose a by-election. Should that have been the sign? Well, I think there's an expression in English that says hindsight is 20/20. But the truth of the matter is that the nature of power is, the first aspect of power is to get to power. The second one is to keep power. So by default, those who are in power, especially if you look at the psychology of those in power, will have been in power for a long time and notably longer than they were expected, especially if they were not even expected to come to power. Let's not forget that in 2015, the Liberals literally went from third place to winning the government in a majority vote. So they were not even expected to win, but not only did they win, they became the majority. So by default, the psychology is we can do this. It was just a bad news. It's like a team that's used to winning. If they come by halftime and they're losing by 3 or 4 goals, they have the psychology that they can still win. They may not think right away, we need to scrap and change everything. You see what I mean? They don't panic. So this is one of the things that happen. And I could agree that, it should have been time, but you have someone in the person of Justin Trudeau, which we have to recognize. It's a quality that we want in a leader. He can fight. He can be combative. Absolutely, you should always have a certain humility to read the room, read the vibe of where the country is going. But at the same time, had he quit then, there could have been people calling him weak, calling him that it's too early. It's basically saying that he basically jumped at the first difficulties. He jumped off the ship. And this is not something that we would expect from someone who's been in power for so long. If you look a few years ago, I'm thinking here, for example, of Great Britain. It took Brexit, such a seismic thing as Brexit for the prime minister then to resign. You see? So, and even when you look just last year in the US, what ended up deciding, what's his name, Joe Biden, to retire from the race, it wasn't so much the failed debate, which can happen. It was the mounting pressure that came notably from within. And this is the same thing that we're seeing with Trudeau. It's ultimately the mounting pressure from within and truly, ultimately, Chrystia Freeland, aka Vice Prime Minister resignation. It's a little bit hard to claim that you can and should remain in power when your number two themselves are bailing on you, just as we saw with Orange Men 4 years ago, aka January 6th, Mike Pence, aka the vice president, refusing to go along with the insurrection coup. It delegitimizes you. Like, it's like me and you are men, but if the number two, or we should say number one person in our lives, aka our wives, our fiance or girlfriend, basically say that we are all these negative things and they can back it up, it becomes a bit hard and much harder for people to believe us that we are outstanding brothers for the community, etc., etc. So ultimately, it was the loss of confidence of Chrystia Freeland. And without even going personal, we know politics are very much based on emotions. So when you have a leader who goes through a separation, not to be regarding his wife, respect for him for making it public, and very transparency and all that. But then he raises questions because we go back a few years ago, the scandal that happened regarding SNC Lavalin and Judith Raymond Tremblay. I said her name wrong, but during that scandal that led to 2 female ministers leaving the Liberal camp, and eventually the Black MP, Cesar Chavanez. So 3 women were left the Liberal flagship. That raised questions regarding Justin Trudeau's claim of being a feminist. So when you have an addition of so many things, the resentment becomes less rational than emotional, as we ended up seeing. And I don't know about you in Toronto, but we see this very well here, notably in Ottawa, the capital region. Beyond the Freedom Truckers convoy of early 2022, there are still a lot of flags that say F Trudeau. It's not so much F Liberals, F Canada, but you read it online, a lot of people looking at Canada as having gone down. But if they are honest, this can be said about so many Western, if not all Western countries. The quality of life has gone down, and Trudeau just becomes an easier target to point to. And of course, most of the critics did not refuse the checks that came during the pandemic because they were sent by Trudeau. F Trudeau, but thank you for the check.
Understood. My concern for the Liberal Party is Trudeau left it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So by March 9th, they're having a leadership race. That's not a lot of time. And then on top of that, we're going to face a spring election, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, a number of ministers, especially younger ones, are not running. And I think they're saying, you know what? We don't want to have the responsibility of building the party back up or being pinned from catastrophic loss.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if he would have resigned early, it would have given more time for the next potential leader to organize a party and maybe prevent what could be a catastrophic loss, because whoever comes in now, from the time that they're elected as Liberal leader to the time of election, they won't have time to distance themselves from the Trudeau record.
Absolutely. I totally agree. But this is also how politics work. If you look at Ontario politics, what happened after years of, oh my gosh, I'm having a memory blank here. The Ontario Prime Minister was there for like many years and then replaced by Kathleen Wynne. And we've seen the debacle that has come to the Ontario Liberal Party. It's the nature of power. Like I said, first get to power, number one. Number two, hang on to power. Now, of course, it would have helped in terms of the party, but to what extent it would have made a difference? And also, we literally went from a pandemic to rising out of a pandemic, and now to add to the layers of difficulties, there is an American president was coming back to the White House with a very bullish and bullying and very imperialistic agenda that notably includes targeting Canada. So whoever comes to power, whether they're red or blue, and I'm saying red or blue, I'm sorry, people have to understand that Mr. Pierre Poilievre, that many statistics really seek becoming the next prime minister, he's never been in charge of anything, truly. He's been an MP, if I'm correct, since age 24. That's literally like, I mean, I'm sorry, like, people can make fun of Justin Trudeau all they want, but he has experience of having worked before being a politician, having been someone who has experienced real life. You've been an MP since what? Your mid-20s. You haven't experienced real life. Being a politician, it's like being in your 40s and 50s, a celebrity. You've been a celebrity since you were a child. You haven't experienced real life. You've been a celebrity since. So we have to be mindful of that there is whatever a liberal, very unlikely, or a conservative, very likely, notably Mr. Poilievre, becomes the next prime minister of Canada, it won't really make a big difference. I mean, there are some liberals that if they were to become prime minister, let's say such as, I think he said he's not running, Dominique Leblanc, there will be more confidence in him as a prime minister. But I'm going to surprise maybe some people here. Among conservative, Doug Ford would make a far better prime minister than many would like to think. But he's not running. He's not going to run for prime minister of Canada. But I would have a lot more confidence. And this is Doug Ford that, remember when he came to running, people were like, he has no experience. Who is he? No, he's a former businessman who has been active, and now he has years of being prime minister of Canada, of Ontario. Yes, with populist policies, but he does have that experience.
And I want to go a little bit further on this. Oh, by the way, your campaign has started. Michelle saying Cesar for prime minister. Bring logic back, please.
Thank you, Michelle. Very kind of you. I don't think Canada is ready for a Pan-Africanist prime minister.
I don't think so. But I heard a commentator today say something very interesting, that in the past, if you look at someone like Jean Chrétien, former prime minister, he campaigned left, but he governed center. And they were saying maybe Trudeau's downfall is he campaigned left and he leaned left. And a lot of liberals are saying we got to take the party back to the center.
Yes, but that is relatively true. In my humble opinion, absolutely, I understand how people would view that Trudeau campaigned left and governed left when you look at, for example, um, um, the progress regarding indigenous relations. I'm saying this, the leaders of the AFN and indigenous leaders would probably agree that he did, would probably disagree that he didn't do enough. But even in terms of supporting, recognizing systemic racism in Canada, recognizing the United Nations Declaration for People of African Descent, whatever he would do, there will be people who will say that he didn't go far enough on the left agenda. Meanwhile, if we are truly honest, this conversation is beyond Canada. I'll talk about it more when we talk about Trump, but this is a conversation about the changing and evolving nature of democracy, which is seeing the Western world become further aligned to the right. The year 2024, elections around the world, democracy lost. People have to understand democracy lost. It's people like Putin of Russia, Xi Jinping of China, who truly won in terms of the vision of the world. Now, don't get me wrong, Western liberal democracies have a lot of blame in regards to how things came out, aka they didn't deliver as people were expecting. And example, the criticism of the Kamala Harris campaign, too much focus on identities instead of more focus notably on the economy and improving the lives of people. But even that is a lie, because those on the right, that's the same thing they will do. I give you an example right here. Trump trolling that Canada would become the 51st state of the United States, which would be quite funny because, as Brother Van Jones, and I'm not exactly a fan of Brother Van Jones, but sometimes he does say very good things. As he says, Canada would be a pretty blue state in the US, but trolling that Canada would become the 51st state in the US and having someone like Elon Musk disrespect our prime minister, just as he's disrespecting the prime minister of England and attacking notably in Germany, etc., etc. We talk about it in a bit. The truth of the matter is also that if we have someone like Pierre Poilievre becoming prime minister, what is he going to do? He's basically labeling himself in the Trumpian way as a Trump of the North without all the flowery language. Just as if Elon Musk wanted to open a Tesla factory, they would give so many tax breaks and everything in order to attract him. So no matter how we look at it, yes, he campaigned left, he governed left, but even many of the people on the left said it wasn't enough, just as they said about Joe Biden. In the same way as those who are on the right, what have we seen? We've seen them go further to the right. So the polarization goes both ways. You see what I mean? It really goes both ways, and it's really a reflection of, as I say, the evolving nature of Western democracies in a larger geopolitical conversation in the world.
Good stuff. Michelle says, I'm ready for a Pan-Africanist.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're going to take a break. This is going to be an ongoing conversation for a while because there's a liberal leadership. There's going to be an election. So all throughout the year, we'll be chiming in regards to what's going on in Canadian politics, because it's and it's interesting. Canadians are just they're so.
But if I may add, Dr. Vibe, we are in January. So last Monday, January 6th, Prime Minister Trudeau announced his resignation. By March 24, there will be a new Liberal leader.
Yep.
In the need of a transparent process, because if you don't make it transparent, you will have another internal divisions, and you will have a lot of. So that's why. So we will have elections by springtime, aka before June, likely before June, we will have a new prime minister. Then will be summer. None of the issues that people are looking at Justin Trudeau to address, they won't be fixed by the summer and come fall/winter time. So the same people who are blaming Trudeau for anything and everything, rightfully or not, they're going to shift that blame to whoever comes to power. So that's why I asked from the start, is the anger of so many people so much towards the Liberals or towards Mr. Trudeau, or it is truly the changing and evolving nature of democracy or democracies in the Western world?
I wish we had access to people at Angus Reid who do national continuous polling in this country to see if they've asked that question, Canadians. But I think they will probably get to it or something close to it in the next few months. On that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in 30 seconds. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about President Macron in France and Africa. So just give us a break, 30 seconds. Canada, we'll be right back. Black Canadians give their takes, POVs, and insights on local, provincial, national, international conversations. Cesar Ndema-Moussa. What is up, Cesar?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Thanks for having me. And it jeopardizes your ability to sustain yourself financially.
40 programs have been suspended due to the drop in revenue.
We see this happening over and over again throughout history.
What does that tell you about America? All right, we are back. Back with Cesar and myself, covering national, now going international. We'll come back to North America, and we're going to finish within Canada. So we're doing a global travel today on Black Canada Talking. You can check it out every Sunday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, where we just lay it down from a Black Canada or Black Canadian point of view and lens. So next up, Cesar, Macron's comments of thanks and Captain, I'm going to try to say Traore.
Traore, Ibrahim Traore.
Okay, give us some lens on this one.
Well, so this was last week. President Macron made a speech in quite typical of French leadership. So you can see here, you can't really see, but where I point the finger here is the first political article about me that got published this back in 2007, where then French President Nicolas Sarkozy basically said in Dakar, Senegal, that the African men had not entered history, which was really insulting to many. And here, basically 18 years later, we have the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who said that Africans, sub-Saharan Africans, former colonies should be thankful to France for the military aid against terrorism. So let us connect the dots here. Mr. Sarkozy here was directly responsible in coalition with Tony Blair of England and Barack Obama of the USA. They were responsible for bringing down Libya's leader and a Pan-Africanist, not a Pan-Africanist at first, but he went from a Pan-Arabist to a Pan-Arabian leader to becoming Pan-Africanist. I'm talking about Muammar Gaddafi. Bringing him down basically opened the flood of what we came to know as the African migrants dying in the Mediterranean Sea, and also the destabilization of states in the Sahel region, leading to international terrorism. And I gave the name of an organization many people have heard about, Boko Haram. It's important to, we should not take lightly this type of comments, because it perpetuates the notion of unequal power relations in the world, and notably the perpetuation of what's called neocolonialism, aka the direct form of colonialism has ended, but it continues under different ways. Um, it is not for African nations to be thankful to France for having sent the military when France directly was involved, to destabilize these African nations. It's like saying thank you to your neighbor for fighting the fire that they actually came into your house to start, because that's literally what it is. This is after not just decades of colonization, but also centuries of slavery practiced in Western Africa. Um, and it is further insulting because what you end up having here is also that the destabilization of notably Western Africa, but also Central Africa since 2011. People have to understand there are French, just as American bases, military bases in Africa. There is no such a thing as an African base in France, USA, Canada. And yet, there are Western nations, especially France, but also the USA, African Command, that have bases in Africa. It has notably pushed further the African brain drain of educated, talented Africans to go to France, just as the theft of minerals. And I'm not just talking about the exploited children of Congo who are dying into mines in order to collect the minerals that help to the creation of our cell phones and our laptops at, of course, great unequal redistribution of wealth for Africans, but also massive corruption in Africa. Let us not forget, you cannot become a dictator or be a president past your term in Africa without the support of some Western, if not Arab nations or Turkey. It doesn't exist. If you look at many conflicts in Africa right now, you will always find non-African interest in the nature of other countries. And some of those countries are countries people don't even suspect. I give an example of two countries, Turkey and Qatar. You want to understand what's happening in Libya, you also look at Turkey. It's not just Russia or the West. You want to understand what's happening in Sudan, Qatar is also involved. These are not countries that we think of, because it's easy to always think about the evil white people, the evil colonizers, the white supremacists. No, Africa is the future of the world. Many of these leaders know about it. And I'm not saying future of the world just as a Pan-Africanist. No, that's ridiculous. I'm speaking here in terms of rationality, with such a vibrant youth population that is bound to become, between the year 2050 and 2100, if I'm correct on my dates, 1/3 of the world population. So one human being out of three will be African. I did not even say black. I said African. So this is a wealth and a great threat. At the same time, the mineral resources that are there bring a lot of in French we say convoitise, greed and desire to occupy it. Notably, why the Chinese government buys a lot of land. Meanwhile, try to be an African going to buy land in China. Let's see how that goes. You can't. And this is why, to connect with Captain Traore, Captain Ibrahim Traore, a young leader. He is just born in 1988, if I recall. A young leader who, following a coup in Burkina Faso, the country of our hero, Thomas Sankara. Him and the leaders of Niger and Mali have basically constituted a three-state bloc of military leadership, but with a Pan-Africanist vision, as Thomas Sankara but also Jerry Rawlings of Ghana were talking about. And Captain Traore had a hero's welcome when he went to Ghana, notably as he's pushing forth. This is not pushing forth an anti-white or necessarily anti-West rhetoric, but is definitely pushing forth a true African independence outside of neo-colonization, outside of foreign interference. And for those who would basically bring the criticism, the kicking the French and the Americans out, but they're welcoming the Russians. Well, this is just basic, predictable strategy in which if I can't defend myself against you, I will become the enemy, the friend of your enemy, in order to look for support. So, yeah.
The concern I have about this is just France was probably, would you say, a few conversation pieces, would you say historically that France has been the biggest offender of imperialism in the continent of Africa?
I wouldn't say that. It absolutely seems to be so. It absolutely does. But it's not exactly the proper narrative when looking at it. So if you want to look at oppression in terms of the African continent, we have to exit the usual length of colonization that began at the end of the 19th century with the African cake at the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885. If we really want to look at it, in terms of oppression of Africans, we pretty much would have to look from as far back. I mean, I'm not going to do too much history here, but we can look as far back as the 6th century before our common era, when the Persians or Cyrus conquered Kemet, ancient Egypt, and then they were replaced by the Greeks of Alexander, but the Greeks of Alexander were welcome as liberators, and the Greeks of Alexander were replaced by the Romans of Augustus Caesar, so the nephew and adoptive son of Julius Caesar, and they were replaced, and this is where the nature of oppression really changed, where the Romans were really occupying what today we call Egypt, Kemet, ancient Pharaonic Black Egypt, and Northern Africa, when the Arab armies came and invaded, coming from the east, starting in Egypt in 639, and what is called the Bact Treaty, Bact, B-A-K-T Treaty, which formally began the enslavement of Africans, notably, not just, but notably on the basis of race in 639 in the 7th century. Almost, so technically 8 centuries before white people, the Arab Muslim armies invaded all of Northern Africa, and the nature of power basically made it that you had African leaders who were converting to Islam, not because of belief, but because of personal interest, and one of those interests being to not only keep the crown on the head, but keep the head on the neck. So, because generally Muslim invasion worked in terms of either you convert or we invade you, we keep you alive, you pay the jizya, which is the Muslim tax, or basically if you convert, you become our allies and you help to spread Islam. And this is why for over 1,000 years, and this is what Boko Haram, just as Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram in Nigeria, Al-Shabaab in Somalia, one of the things that they do is that these Islamist terrorist organizations force the spread of Islam in what is called a jihad, basically a holy war. Now, when we come to white people, you have to truly look, and I'm going to give the specific dates here, 1443, 1444, when the Portuguese began the enslavement of Africans in a small island by the name of Capo Verde. You can Google the images of people from Capo Verde and you will see strong racial mixing by force. Basically, what the Portuguese did in Capo Verde, that's what they brought to Brazil, which is why Brazil is today the most mixed nation in the world. And further to that, when you have the Berlin Conference that happened after centuries of enslavement, so from Christopher Columbus, 1492, but really the beginning of the 16th century to the end of the 19th century, in order to further fuel capitalism and industrialization. And one of the goals of the Berlin Conference was to prevent or delay a European war, which still happened with World War I. What happened is that when they cut the African cake, those who stayed in power, eventually after World War I, the biggest winners, the French and the British, they just continued the form of oppression, but oppression by also creating social classes of those who would basically be, such as we would say today, the supervisors, Africans supervising other Africans in order to continue the oppression. So whether we look at the Belgians, whether we look at the French or the British, the same thing that happened notably in India, which is why notably in India, you do have kind of a superior caste, which is closer to the former British Raj, R-A-J, basically the British representative of Queen Victoria and the empire over there. So to say the French were the ones were most oppressed is very important. After World War II, very important detail most people don't know. In ideology, the winners of World War II were rightfully the Soviet Union of the communists and the United States of America, aka the capitalists. Both capitalism and communism oppose colonization for ideological reasons. But ideology is one thing, the reality is another. The reason why France literally got to maintain its foothold on its colonies even after the year 1960, aka the year of Africa, because so many African countries became independent, is actually because France had the green light of the USA. They had the green light of the USA, notably in order to control these African countries for votes at the United Nations. This is why there is a concept of France-Afrique, where basically France is still controlling a large part of Africa, not only for the mineral resources, but also in regards to the politics. And you can see the corruption. Many French presidents, the campaigns, but also monies that they made, their own enrichment came from stolen money and minerals out of Africa. The former French president, Nicolas Sarkozy, notably is on trial in France. Years later, he's on trial still regarding Libyan money that helped to fund his campaign. And at the same time, like I was saying, even in my own birth country, let me not be a hypocrite here. My own birth country, Africa has two particularities. The youngest state leader is in Africa. I think it used to be Captain Traore, but I think now it's the Senegalese president. But Africa also has the oldest state leader in the person of Paul Biya, who is the president of Cameroon. So the nature of oppression, it may change faces, it may change discourse, but France is a tool of the Western world and also of America in the maintaining of the oppression of Africa with any and all justified reasons that they can provide. But like I remind people, if you have French and American bases in Africa, show me the African base in France or in the USA. People can't even think of such a thing, and there shouldn't be.
Got you. All right, we're going to move on to another conversation now. But yes, I was going to say, Cesar, have your water. You're seeing me have my water. You're doing a little bit more sharing than myself. So I want to encourage you to drink the water while we're doing Take Your Time. All right, next up, 47's imperialism. And before we get into that, just ironically, we talked earlier on about the day that Prime Minister Trudeau resigned, and also the day that was also, if I'm not mistaken, was that not also the day? Yes, it was the day, the anniversary of the January 6th resurrection. But 47's imperialism saying, can it be a great 51st state?
We have to take seriously. No, Kamala Harris had said it best, and someone correct me. Donald Trump says a lot of things that are not serious, but we have to take them seriously because this man has the power to very negatively affect the lives of people. For those, notably MAGA and notably Black MAGA wannabes, and I'm saying, I no longer say Black MAGA, I say Black MAGA wannabes because sooner or later they experience racism from the white MAGAs, aka the majority, aka the true MAGA. We just need to remember that during COVID, up to 1 million Americans, if not more, and disproportionately Black and brown people died of COVID due to the lack of seriousness of a certain Donald Trump. This is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. But I think, before I continue, Trump is a man who wants to be in the history books. He wants to leave his mark, his legacy. He literally dodged going to jail. And Dr. Vibe, remember what I said? The three people I actually hold responsible for Donald Trump not going to jail are number one, Joe Biden, because if he would have been a Black man, he would have been arrested. If not on January 6th, by January 20th, the new president would have had him arrested on the spot if he was still alive. Joe Biden, the Justice Department that took forever to start the investigations.
The Attorney General, what is his name?
Merrick Garland.
So on primetime Saturday, Aisha Stagger said she said, quote, the most useless Attorney General in at least the last 50 years in America.
Absolutely. If he had been a Black man, he would have been arrested. If he had been a Black man, a Black Panther, someone who looks like you and me on the screen, we would have started a riot towards Congress for Black people's rights, reparations for slavery, fighting against systemic racism. We would have done that with 1,000 or 10,000 other Black men and Black women. If we would have been shot and killed on January 6th, we would have been arrested and jailed since then. Guantanamo style. And the third, so the Justice Department, but also the Supreme Court. And number three, the people who voted for Donald Trump have to be held accountable. Because, of course, and let's not be hypocrites here. Many people who voted for Donald Trump did not vote for him because they're racist or they're sexist, but they were able to vote for someone despite his racism, his sexism, aka including rape, aka crimes. And now they're finding themselves in a situation, many people said this, Donald Trump never started any war, but clearly when asked the question, he is not removing the possibility of a military takeover, notably of Greenland, just as of the Panama Canal. And regarding Canada, he's threatening an economic war, aka 25% tariffs, which could really happen, but which would eventually also hurt Americans. I remember many of his former staff, notably generals, talking about a second Trump campaign could literally be disastrous to America. And here, when we look at Greenland, shaking off Denmark, maybe it's a negotiating policy, the art of the so-called deal. But this is in the context of global warming, from a man who denies global warming, but he's adjusting to global warming, the melting of the polar ice, aka new trade routes, having more land, Greenland, with a lot of minerals. And in terms of Panama, Panama, which is very much lined alongside the BRICS in terms of challenging the Western-led order and more Chinese presence. And in terms of us, Canada, the 25% tariffs, it would hurt. It would truly hurt, as Doug Ford said. But it must also be a message to Canada not to so much rely on America as its number one economic/trade partner. When I checked, and if I'm correct, I think it's about 70% of Canadian trade is with USA. And in second place comes China. I want to say 5 to 10%. No, China or Japan. It's China or Japan at 5 or 10%. This must be a message that you cannot be that much dependent. I mean, the context of Trump's return has notably started a conversation in Europe about Canada entering the European Union. Doesn't make sense. Canada is not even in Europe, but it's not as crazy as it sounds, because when we look at, for example, in sports, Israel is technically part of Europe due to, the geopolitical context of Israel being in the Middle East. Israel competes in Europe. So economically speaking, Canada may be offered to at least consider growing closer ties with Europe, which also has been too dependent, USA, notably for military protection. But even when you look at the economy, and this is where a certain Elon Musk comes in with the tech bros, the last of which being Mark Zuckerberg removing fact-checking, aka trying to grease the hand of Orange Man to be in his good graces. The power, the domination, but also the narcissism of a Trump and Musk tag team, along those around them, such as Vivek Ramaswamy and Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, I'm just forgetting Tim Cook of Apple, who are basically shifting, because the conversation was a lot of that Silicon Valley, those tech billionaires being more of the Democratic Party. They have strongly shifted to the right because of the coming of Donald Trump. And it's not just a matter of freedom of speech. In regards to the DSC, Digital Services Act, where it was notably revealed that there was censorship from the Biden government and notably the FBI during the pandemic and ever since notably the elections. But truly, it is because of the coming of Donald Trump. It is because you have some of the most powerful men and richest men who are literally bending over, just as you had American politicians, aka notably greatly Republicans, who literally lost the power of their own party to a man who literally entered politics kind of as a joke and was himself surprised that he won. You see, and he is literally conducting affairs, as an amateur, but we can't really say an amateur. Trump loves the spotlight. Trump loves to be the news, to make the news, and that's part of the reason why I don't think
the center of attention.
Yes. He likes to be. There's an expression in literary fiction from David Eddings, from Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time, the Taverne, basically as the French absolutist monarch Louis XIV. He likes to be the sun on which all the planets and stars
revolve
revolve around.
around.
And that's why I don't know how long it's going to work with Elon Musk taking so much place, but it's really looking like America's Trump and the world according to Elon Musk as the richest man. And we can see the support to right-wing parties. Respect to him for bringing up the issue. I don't know if many people know about it, the issue of white girls kidnapped and raped, notably by Pakistani gangs in England. Absolutely, it's not a matter of targeting the Pakistani or Muslim communities, but that issue should have been brought forward, no matter the social issues or identity politics it would have brought. But here we see Trump and Musk on an imperialist course to change the world. And how to blame them when on the other side you have people such as Putin trying to recreate a greater Russia, the imperialist Russia. You have someone like Narendra Modi of India, the largest democracy in the world, who basically is governing with the ideology called Hindutva, aka Hinduness, which is a socio-political and religious ideology from Hindu India. And you have China's Xi Jinping. I mean, so many examples, but really it is the failure. Trump imperialism is really the failure of the rule of law. No matter how we want to criticize the rule of law of the Western world, that notably was greatly at the disadvantage of African countries and countries of the South, as can be seen with the Permanent Security Council of the United Nations and the United Nations as a whole. But no matter how we want to criticize that, Trump's imperialism and Elon Musk's way of business, and notably revenge tactics and, acquisition, power moves, and very bro-like attitude, insults and trolling, etc. It is the nature of the world that we live in, lots of democracy and lots of class. I was a little bit long, so
no, it's okay. I just
apologize
also
for the
want to.
length.
You had mentioned about Canada's Trump trading partners. I'm just showing on the screen if you're watching live or in a replay. During 2023, United States 77.6% of total Canadian exports.
Yeah.
China 4%, Japan 2.1%, United Kingdom 1.8%, Mexico 1.1%, Netherlands 1%. So realize that over 9/10 of Canadian exports were delivered to the top 15 trade partners, including Australia, all that. But almost 70% of Canadian exports go to the United States.
It's ridiculous. It's a bad strategy. It's literally, how do you call that? You're handcuffing yourself to someone who is already more powerful than you. It's a toxic relationship of dependency, because let's be honest, Trump is right about one thing. Why is nobody attacking Canada? It's truly because of USA. So indeed, Canada has created too great of a dependency on the United States, which wasn't always the case. Canada actually used to be more independent decades ago, notably the exit of World War II. 78% of trade with the USA. I mean, we have to find other ways. It's not normal that 78% with the United States, and right underneath we have Mexico, 1%. And meanwhile, we talk about NAFTA. We talk about free trade agreement. That's not a free trade agreement. That's not a free trade agreement. We literally, I've said it, Dr. Vibe. The great thing about Donald Trump, which I love about him, he exposes the system. He exposes the system for you, like him, dislike him, but at least he brings it forward. How many times have we talked about Canada having such a trade partner in America, and now this has happened? Thanks to Donald Trump, we are talking of it now. So it becomes a security risk. Donald Trump puts on January 20th or January 21st 25% tariffs, lots of people are going to lose their work.
20%, yeah.
Lots of families are going to need food banks. Food banks are already lacking means, food, and etc. The price of goods is going to increase, starting with the price of food. Why are we so dependent on the USA when America is demonstrating to us they get the right isolationist leader? So Trump is isolationist, aka Make America Great Again, but also he's very much imperialist. He has no problem threatening, I mean, Greenland. How many Americans would even know where Greenland is on the map? The Panama Canal? So many Americans think Canadians live in igloos. So ask them about
Yeah.
Greenland. If they, even if they've seen, how do you call on Netflix, Vikings, how many would have taken a moment to even look up on Wikipedia or Google where Greenland is? And I'm not saying this as a mockery to Americans. It's probably the same among Canadians. And starting with a certain Donald Trump himself, who has no shame in his lack of culture. But he's looking at every situation as a deal or a win, never as a potential loss or a potential risk.
No, it's
Everything is a
that's
deal or a
that's
win.
his book, Art of the Deal. So people are just saying he's putting this front to get, he knows what he can get, but he's putting out the most extreme, and so he can get what he can get and settle. Michelle says Doug Ford, who's the Premier of Ontario, wants to strike a deal with the Orange. I won't say that word because if I say it, who knows what Facebook will sue, to sell our resources for a better price. Ontario already sells our hydro to the U.S. for a good rate, while we subsidize that with our high hydro prices.
Indeed. And this is where, like, look, what do we have as Canadians? We have oil, but America also has oil. We have the hydro. They have some hydro, but nobody has hydro like Canada has hydro. We have lots of agriculture. There is no need.
Lots of water too.
Well, of course, with lots of water. You know, the hydro and the water go together. There is no reason for Canada to find itself in a situation in which a strategic partner, a valuable strategic partner, because this is not about America per se. This is about the person in power. And it's because it's not even about Republicans. Trump just likes to do Trump. Like he talks about not trusting the elites as if he's a commoner who came to power. He's not. But this is not even about a Republican. This is about Trump. Things are going to be tough. I would say likely till the next midterms election, because he has learned from the first time he was in power. So he's literally doing everything on high speed, fully knowing that the midterm.
He wants to pass most of these things in one bill. One bill. He wants to put everything in one bill.
Yeah. And he has control of the House,
control of the Senate,
and the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And most of these people, I mean, the Supreme Court justices, they couldn't care. The position is for life, but still, they have given Trump some pushback on certain things. But in terms of the House and the Senate, most of those politicians are weak. Oh yeah, they rejected Matt Gaetz in terms of the Department of Justice, but what about the other one? The one who has gotten drunk so many times, Phil Hesketh or Hesketh. You know, what about Kash Patel?
Oh boy.
What about my God, I forget the woman's, I'm having memory blank. Gallard, Tulsi
Gabbard. Yeah.
Exactly. What about them? Are they going to push back on those as well? Are they going to stand up to President Trump when literally he has his army of MAGA fans who not only might not vote for them, but literally can start to call them and threaten violence upon them? You know, this is a really how American politics has been shifting. So to connect thing, people want to criticize Justin Trudeau for having gone too much to the left. Well, look at what's happening on the right side of politics. I mean, and even right here in Canada, let's be honest, 2 years ago, I live here in Ottawa. when a certain Pierre Poilievre went to show support to the Freedom, DUMB, truckers on Parliament Hill, would Pierre Poilievre have gone to show support to the Freedom truckers if they were black? If they were LGBTQ? If they were women? If they were indigenous? We all know it wouldn't have been so. So the right has gone further to the right. The right also does identity politics. Even as we talk about EDI, DEI, they want to bash it. No, no, no. They do identity politics. Wow. So.
All right, we got Michelle's another comment here saying also Canada needs to assist our farmers to build greenhouses so that we stop relying on the U.S. and other countries for winter produce.
And I will also add to the fact that the green economy that the liberals were trying to push has to be less in terms of carbon, which notably when you look at someone like my gosh, I'm thinking Diane Smith, the Premier of Alberta. I can't remember the first name.
Yeah, but interesting enough, she visited 47 in Mar-a-Lago this week.
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
And we have to shift from less so much about carbon emissions per se, but more about incentives to go green. More incentive to go green, from green economy to solar panel to you name it. Because when you look at, notably to give you an example, look at China's progress in terms of economy. Oh yeah, of course, it's been stalling, but China has had such an economic boom that has shown notably. I'll give a simple example. Look at Via Rail, the trains that we have here in Canada, compared to the trains they have in Europe. That should give you an idea. So there's no reason why we are so much behind and notably so dependent. Canada is a bigger country than the United States. And I don't even think, although there are many Canadians who would love to have an American passport, I don't think that's the majority of Canadians. I think it's kind of like you can love USA without wanting to be part of USA and have the issues of USA, such as healthcare, immigration, gun and drug violence, and the nature of the politics.
Well, one of the interesting things that's come out with 47's Imperial Rage is that you see a lot of Canadians saying, we don't want to be part of America.
And look, this can, I mean, depending on who comes to power next, likely to be Mr. Pierre Poilievre, will we see a new type of Canadian nationalism that basically rely on what makes us different and what makes us
very interesting. We have not heard hardly anything on Mr. Poilievre really about 47's imperialism.
Well, because he's a Trumpian type of candidate. He fashions himself. You know, when Bolsonaro was in power in Brazil, we were talking about tropical Trump. With Poilievre, we're talking about Trump of the North. You know, like Game of Thrones, King of the North, Trump of the North.
I will wonder if the next leader in a debate will put him on the hot seat for that.
I doubt it. I doubt it, honestly, because even if it's mentioned, you basically would have people who are so, and this is an unfortunate part of democracy, which, for all that we can say that democracy is not perfect, but it is the best type of regime, while it's still part of human nature in which people thinking about the interests are not going to push so much on certain issues. Just look at what happened with Trump during the Republican primaries. How many of those candidates running against Trump talked about his criminal indictments, including the white woman, Nikki Haley? Yes, she's Indian, and yes, she's white. She didn't bring it up. She didn't stand up for the defense of women. So people like Trump, and to a certain measure, such as Pierre Poilievre, they know the other side still likes to play by the rules of political correctness, where they have little to no hold crossing the line. In the Canadian context, I gave the example I just gave. The Freedom Truckers, if they were Black or Muslims, LGBTQ or women or Indigenous, would Pierre Poilievre have gone to support them? Absolutely not. I am not one who believes that for a second. And if he were to be the prime minister and there was a Freedom Trucker convoy, notably of white men, would he go there to support them against his own government? I absolutely don't believe that for a second. So, yeah.
We're going to fit in one last conversation piece Cesar wants to chat about. We're going to talk about the recent cases of Black boys missing in the Greater Toronto area.
I just wanted to bring a little highlight to that, to remind our people that just as we have Amber Alerts regarding missing children and youth, and it's a great technology to have Amber Alerts, but we have to recognize that the plight, notably of young and not so young Black girls and Black women, doesn't get the same amount, but even less amount of attention and empathy is regarding Black boys, and we can even say Black men, because there is here an intersectionality of race and gender, just as of social issues in regards to why we are having Black boys, and this is not just limited to the Greater Toronto area. I want to say across Canada. I cannot give you specific. Child trafficking, human trafficking, sex trafficking is real. Sometimes it is, of course, due to drugs, mental health, and yes, sometimes it is a person who, of their own will, decides to go off the map. But let's not be hypocrites. I think people understand what I'm talking about. Even in the US, there were documentaries, and there's been investigations by journalists regarding missing Black girls and Black women and the lack of coverage about it. So imagine, furthermore, missing Black boys and Black men and the lack of coverage amid systemic racism, but also substance abuse and mental health. And of course, poverty. Poverty makes people not only move, but it also makes people being made to disappear without any lack of care, because they are poor, because there are Black minorities, Indigenous, LGBTQ. I give a little example here. I think many people would agree with me. The Netflix series, I can't remember the name, but the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, I believe the name, targeting LGBTQ people. Well, for so long was because of the nature of the people he was victimizing, aka gay people. As you notice, many serial killers attack gay people. Many serial killers kill Black people because there will be less police and media scrutiny regarding those cases. And there was a meeting in the Greater Toronto area.
Well, yeah, and there are more coming. Yeah, there was one done online. They filmed the online meeting, the Zoom, to maximum capacity. They had to turn away people, but there are 3 different meetings coming up in the next few weeks in the Greater Toronto area about this subject. I want to also agree with you, Cesar. This shouldn't just be about Black boys.
No.
You know, and it really started to get groundswell when Joy Reid, who's a host of a show on MSNBC, started to put this story out before any major Canadian news outlet.
When the media start to care, I mean, look, we're talking here in 2025. For some reason, I'm remembering, I believe it was in 2012, Joseph Kony and the Lord Liberation Army in Uganda, in terms of the disappearing of children. I'm also thinking of 2014, Michelle Obama, regarding Boko Haram, bring back our girls. It shouldn't take a celebrity, it shouldn't take the media, but we know how human nature, notably in the 21st century of internet access and mass information, even through social platforms, it helps when we have people coming together, notably celebrities, to bring awareness to an issue.
On that note, we're going to call it for today's conversation. As always, I want to say thank you to Cesar for taking the time out of his positive, productive schedule to hang out with us today. Also, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, again, email address is present at rootsandculturecanada.com. Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. Cesar, anything coming up in the next few weeks?
Conferences, trainings, and of course, keeping the flame of Pan-Africanism alive. Very quickly, I just remember this. I want to give my congratulations to all our brothers and sisters, notably from the United States, who have recently become citizens of the first African state out of colonization, aka Ghana, notably our brother Umar Johnson, who became a citizen of the state of Ghana in Western Africa. So, my people, don't wait for Black History Month to look up your ancestry. Free promotion, africanancestry.com. That's what I recommend. But also, let us educate Black youth and non-Black youth. We have more and more mixed families, white family members, interracial couples. Educate all the children, educate your partner, whatever the skin color, educate your colleagues. They're not just to be Black of skin, Black of mind. I was here today, actually, before I came on the show. I had my daughter, she had her play sisters, so Black children of the neighborhood. They came over and I put the movie Mufasa, the movie in the theaters. I put it on TV for them. And beyond the fact that Beyonce, Blue Ivy, etc. are in there, I was telling them about traditional Africa. And then we went to Google, showing them pictures and showing them the children animation, Kirikou. Some people may know the name, Kirikou. Educate our people. Don't wait for Black History Month. Black pride, Black knowledge, Black excellence is 366 days a week, as it should be for all people, independently of the roots.
All right. And as always, your number one fest says thank you all.
Thank you, Michelle.
Always, I like to say, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and you and your family remember to give each other grace. We'll see you, brother. All right. That is another epic conversation. Cesar is out. He is out. So thank you, everyone, for watching live on the replay. Let me just do this here and say, hey, if you want to get a hold of me, website, www.thedrvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram at The Dr. Vibe Show, X/Twitter at DRVIBESHOW, and email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. As always, subscribe to The Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like The Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And if you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, email me, please. dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. All right, as we ended off today, this is how we're going to do it. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And always remember, if you're not making money, make history. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good. And thanks for watching live and on the replay.